To the second episode of Beyond the Medallion, a limited series audio podcast brought to you by the U.S. Presidential Scholars Foundation. I'm Thomas, host of the podcast and a 2024 U.S. Presidential Scholar from New York. I'm currently attending the Rochester Institute of Technology for a bachelor's and master's in computer engineering. Our special guest for today's episode is Edward Chen, a 2024 Scholar in the Arts from Irvine, California. Edward Chen is a Taiwanese-American dancer. He's a current sophomore studying energy science and engineering at Stanford University. Trained in choreography and freestyle since age 7, he's won first place in hip-hop competitions and ranked Division I nationally in ballroom Latin formation. Experiences that inspired his OCSA, TEDx Talk, Embracing Your Whole Self with Freestyle Dancing. At Stanford, he's focused on accelerating climate solutions at the intersection of policy, investment, and technology. He currently serves as co-executive director of Stanford Climate Week and has worked in 2 climate tech startups focused on weather modification and the built environment. This past summer, he served as a Schultz Fellow at the California Energy Commission and helped to permit 7 gigawatts of renewable energy coming into the state. Eddie is a U.S. Presidential Scholar in the Arts and the 2023 National Young Arts winner with distinction in hip-hop dance. At Stanford, Eddie has taught and choreographed for the Department of Theater and Performance Studies and Alliance Dance Crew. Eddie serves as Artistic Director of Dance and Movement for the San Francisco-based nonprofit Art Is, creating interdisciplinary art performances and residencies in the Greater Bay Area. Eddie believes that passion begets passion as he continues to inspire change across local and global communities. So, Eddie, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Thomas.
Yeah, of course. So, as we mentioned before, you are a 2024 Scholar or 2023 National Young Arts winner, distinction in hip hop dance. Could you tell us a little more about that journey and what it was like to be recognized at a national level for your art?
Yeah, of course. So, growing up, I went to an art school, Orange County School of the Arts in Orange County. And before that, so the school itself was a middle school and high school. And so, like, you were literally surrounded by artists everywhere. Like, people there were doing cooking, music, creative writing, singing, dancing, just every single art form you can imagine. I think coming into before that, because I started hip-hop dances when I was 7 years old. And when my parents put me into the first hip-hop class, I still remember that class. Just every single art form you can imagine. I think coming into before that, because I started hip-hop dances when I was 7 years old. And when my parents put me into the first hip-hop class, I still remember that class. Like, we were, like, learning the box step. My hands were sweating. Or, I was so focused, and I remember at the end of the hour, I looked at myself in the mirror, and, like, my entire forehead was just, like, red. Like, it was just, like, I was so focused during the entire class, and I had never felt so, like, I'm passionate about something. And so that was my passion initially sparked when I was 7 years old. From there, I just kept on dancing, right? And even in elementary school, I was kind of like the kid that didn't want to play sports with my friends. Like, all my friends were doing, like, football, all that kind of stuff during recess and lunch. And I was just, like, the kid, just, like, sitting on the benches, just, like, reading a book or something like that. But I'd always be the kid, like, when music came on in class or something like that, to be known to be dancing in the seat, you know? I just loved the arts. It was, like, such a big part of my identity, and it still is, right? And so for me, being into an art school, like, going to an art school helped really empower that passion, and being surrounded by people who also did the same things. There was, like, no sports in my art school, and so it was a fun time. And I think I wouldn't be, like, the person I am today, that is, like, more extroverted, right, or more, like, confident in my own abilities and identity, if I had not gone to the art school. So yeah, I give a lot of credit to that school. So I joined a dance team that I had, like, I was a big fan of, called Gravy Babies. They, like, moved their studio to Orange County, like, during COVID, essentially. And then when COVID kind of was alleviated, I joined when I was in 10th grade. And from there, I took privates from this teacher who was really, really great. And in 11th grade, I auditioned for Young Arts. I applied for Young Arts. I didn't really know how big it was. And I guess also for the viewers, like, so for artists that become a U.S. Presidential Scholar in the Arts, you have to first be deemed a National Young Arts winner with distinction in that art form, right? So it could be in film, it could be in cooking, and I don't think there's a cooking one. There could be film, it can be, like, design, it can be creative writing, it can be dancing, singing, and so you have to first, basically how the competition works is, like, around, like, October time, you submit your application to your art form, right? And that can look like a portfolio, whatever the requirements are. And then after that, the foundation selects 150 artists from across the country, and it's around 10 per discipline, or around 15, because there's only 10 disciplines that you would choose to apply to. And
okay.
from there, so these are like deemed the National Young Arts winners with distinction, and these winners with distinction get a full ride trip to Miami, Florida in January of the following year, and it's for an entire week, and it is the best week of your life. Like, oh my gosh, like just imagine being surrounded in a room full of like other people who are just as passionate and empowered by the arts as you are. It's an amazing experience, and just like one of the first times really when I felt like, besides going to art school, right, just like this is kind of like that level up of just like feeling empowered by just being in the arts, right? And so basically that entire week you do performances, you perform what you submitted for your portfolio, and you just make this network of people. And I'm still like good friends with a lot of these people, and just such a strong network of just artists that you just want to create with later on. And just also the great part of Young Arts is also the interdisciplinary portion of it, where maybe you're doing dance, but you can like create stuff with someone who does music, who plays the piano, who writes, who does spoken word, right? And basically from there, in your senior year, because you can be selected as a winner in junior or sophomore year as well. But in your senior year, it's like ages 15 to 18, I believe, that you can apply. And in senior year, you apply to become a U.S. Presidential Scholar in the Arts. Basically, from there, they, out of all the winners with distinction from the past 3 years, essentially, that are seniors now, they select 60 to advance the next round. And from there, you write another essay, like set of essays, and they select 20 from there. And the 20 are like the final artists. And so basically for 2024, I was there's one other person that was a presidential scholar in dance for that year, but I think there were around like 2 per discipline, something like that, because there's 10 disciplines. But yeah, there's 20 final scholars from across the country, and that like further empowered, and like becoming that part of the network was amazing. So yeah, I'd say like overall, like Young Arts is definitely one of the best like weeks of my life so far. Like just being part of that environment.
Wow, that's so cool. I knew that the presidential scholar selection for Young Arts was like very limited, only 20, but I didn't realize how many disciplines there were. So the fact that there's only one other dance category from your year, that's an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah. And I don't even think it's like a quota too. I believe it's just like it varies by year. But they definitely want like the diversity of the different art forms, right? But I think like maybe one art form might have 3, the other might have only 1, something like that. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
As you were saying, it really sounded like you found the passion at an early age at 7. Like even then you knew how much you loved just engrossing yourself in the arts. And I think it is so cool and just such a great opportunity for you that you were able to go to that high school where you could be surrounded with all those like-minded individuals. Because I do think there's a lot of power in exposing yourself to like different perspectives and potential like different paths you can go down. But if you already know what you want to do, then like just honing in on your strengths, I think is really powerful. It's really
cool. Yeah, I think also even within that, like the arts, they're so interdisciplinary. Like, so basically how my art school worked too is like you would audition for a conservatory. So there was like 16 different conservatories. So like, I mentioned just one for each of the art forms. I joined the Integrated Arts Conservatory. And so basically that conservatory is focused on basically learning like the multitude of art forms basically. And so how the conservatory kind of structure works is like 8:30, we have a block schedule. So you have like classes the same classes every other days. But the academic workload was like 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., 3 classes for 90 minutes each. And then you had like 30 minutes of office hours or just like free work time. And then the next 2 hours were classes for your conservatory. And it was an amazing time. So basically you would end around 4:45 p.m. But so like for example, if you're in dance conservatory, right? Like Monday could be, those 2 hours could be focused on ballet, Tuesday could be jazz, Wednesday could be hip hop, right? If you were in like acting, Monday could be like working on script writing, Tuesday could be like monologue, Wednesday could be like acting for the stage, right? If you were like in creative writing, it's just like different art forms based, like different components of the art form were trained and studied for each of the days. Friday you had the arts classes off though, so you ended around like 2:20 p.m. Nice. And the crazy part about that, it was just really, really great part. And for IA, for Integrated Arts, for my conservatory, basically how it was just like, because you learn a multitude of art forms, you also never bored. And the conservatory itself didn't really feel competitive because each person is like really specialized in their own art form in that conservatory. And so Monday could be like creative writing, Tuesday could be acting, Wednesday could be filming, Thursday could be like sculpting, whatever, right? 3D art and design, something like that. Like very interesting art forms. And so for me, like because I danced so much outside of school during high school, like I was like, I want to use this opportunity at school to just like really learn and immerse in the other art forms. So just like really, really great time. It was a fun time.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so obviously you do a lot in the arts. And so at the same time, though, you're currently studying energy science and engineering at Stanford. So I'd really love to hear how that passion for energy science and engineering kind of emerged alongside art.
Great question. So I guess also first a bit of background on like what the major itself is, because I know a lot of colleges don't have it. So I'd say it's kind of like a mixture between mechanical and civil engineering in the sense that the classes that we're taking, it's like, so there's a lot of like physics and math classes, right? You go through the entire series, and then like other like physics related courses, like I'm taking thermodynamics right now. There's also some classes in like economics, within energy, like energy evaluation, looking at grid modeling for like putting in like new renewable energy technologies or new technologies into the grid, load planning essentially. We're also learning like the physics and the math behind how each of the technologies work. So like later on, I'll take classes on like, how does a solar panel actually work? How do wind turbines work? How does geothermal work, nuclear work, gas work, everything like that. The entire portfolio. How I got into it. Okay, so coming into so it's crazy experience because like Stanford, oh my gosh. So like I feel like my art school experience was just so different from like a lot of people in the country, right? Especially because also we didn't have exposure to sports, but also the fact that like the great thing about OSHA too, like which is my high school, Orange County School of the Arts, is that people there were good in both the academics and the arts, right? Like we had a ton of AP offerings. People would like go crazy doing like science Olympiad, robotics, like business related, like DECA, culture related stuff, like so much stuff aside the arts, right? And so people there weren't like this good at the arts, not as good at academics. Like there's so many like double or triple threats in the school. I think that's what also made our school like so potent. Like every year we have like a ton of acceptances to the Ivies and like Stanford and like all these different colleges and UCs, and it just like really inspired to be with those people. But coming to Stanford, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do academically throughout high school. Like I enjoy my parents always like really value like the academic culture and like making sure that I did well in classes, right? And so I love classes, I love learning, I got A's, all that kind of stuff, but there wasn't anything that sparked as much passion in me as dance did, right? I just kind of like got the grades because I want to get a good college, all that stuff, but also like I enjoyed learning, but like I was like, oh, bio's cool, physics is cool, like history is really interesting, but like nothing just like maybe like want to like think about it for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as dance did, right? Like I just like dance just like tugged at my heartstrings. It just like it's my soul, right? But coming into Stanford, so like that was kind of like what I wanted to figure out at Stanford, right? And even here, like I'm sure like you've also had like the different high school experience from what I had, right? But like you're like basically put into an environment where people are from all around the country, right? And so there's people that like have like learned computer science since they're like really young, right? People that have like understood like what the terms VC meant, right? Like venture capital, right? Like I just like had no idea what even these things even meant, right? And being in the Bay Area, you're just really immersed into that. So like freshman year, I like basically switched majors like 5 times, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I came in as international relations, cycled through like computer science, earth systems, international relations, data science. What else?
Yeah, I think hopping around is one of the best things you can do your first year.
Exactly. It's one of the greatest things, right? And I finally settled on energy science and engineering. Yeah, because I feel like, especially as a freshman, you have no idea what you want to do. And it's the best time for you to change, right? It's the most malleable, right? And then freshman year, fall quarter, basically, like the first quarter I was there, I took this introductory seminar called Energy Options in the 21st Century. And then that was like the first time when I was really exposed to these different technologies, right? Like I'd heard of them, but like each week we went through like the social political challenges as well as the technological challenges of each technology, right? So like transportation as well as nuclear, wind, solar, gas, right? Like we're looking at like the news, like how did like the current politics, the geopolitics play out with these different technologies? And it was just such an intellectually engaging issue and problem that I really wanted, was like, whoa, it was like a really cool thing to solve. And I like throughout my freshman year, I was trying to figure out, like how can I marry impact with like something that could also keep me engaged academically, that could also, I guess like financial stability, right? Like that's always important consideration, right? And then like over the past 4 years, like the new dual school of sustainability opened up, which consolidated all like the earth systems, energy systems programs in the school at Stanford into one entire school, right? And it's because of that too, the climate community began to grow a lot my freshman year. Like a lot of my friends created their own clubs. I talked to a lot of faculty. We had like so many cool classes. Like I mentioned, I haven't mentioned this, but there's this like Stanford Climate Ventures class, like a focus on startups, and like really incubating the energy and climate innovation community, right? There's classes on like energy policy in the West, electricity economics, looking at how you can like model the grid, looking at utility incentives, and energy markets and regulations, like so many cool classes. And so like going to that space, I was like, wow, like this is a really cool experience. And so I finally decided on energy science and engineering, because there are so many other like majors like that focus on energy. Like there's civil environmental engineering, like atmospheric energy. There's also like earth systems, but I realized like especially being in a place like Stanford, I wanted to focus on the STEM side, like the physical side of it, because I wanted to really understand how things worked. And then later on, if I want to go into policy and finance side of it, in the tech side, whatever it is, at least having that foundation, really understanding how these technologies work was really important for me, especially because it's the climate space, like getting to net zero and really working on this, like one of the biggest problems in the 21st century, right, is like climate itself fundamentally is a hardware issue, right? Like software might be even a fifth of the issue, but everything else, food and ag, right, built environment, transportation, energy, like these different issues, really like at the core of it is technology, right? It's just hardware. Like how can you actually make these things work? The tough part of that is also like with venture investing, with it takes a long time. Like their ROIs are very long. Like it's like software you can like really easily multiply, just build an app in seconds, right? Especially now with AI. Hardware not as easy, right? Like you have to actually like experiment, get the parts. It's a physical stuff. You have to be in the lab, whatever it is, right? So the hardware issue is like that's the biggest part of climate. So that's why I wanted to really major in engineering.
Wow, yeah, I definitely totally agree that, especially with the rise of AI, that hardware is definitely going to be, I guess, a more significant role player in influencing future climate policy. I mean, between like the energy grid and then also just getting the renewable energies like out there and accessible to be used, it's yeah. I totally understand why you picked that for your major, because especially I feel like our generation growing up, we really, not to say that, I feel like as the generations go on, we're becoming more and more aware of climate change and like how we impact the planet and sustainability as a whole. So
yeah, it's awesome. I also want to add, like, I think what I love about climate, and for the viewers out there too, like if y'all are trying to like, yo, how can I make impact in college, right? Like I think what I love about climate and energy, or just climate itself, is that it's very interdisciplinary and it's connected to every single discipline like that you could ever think of, right? Like in finance, in fashion, in like product design, like anything you want to do, computer science, right? It's about like, it's all about how can you make something more efficient, but also more sustainable, right? And the biggest thing about that is like the emissions, right? How can you make that more like these things also, they aren't just for the good of the planet, but they're also economically like efficient and incentivized, right? Like solar and wind are like the cheapest technologies, right? Like economically, it also makes more sense to invest in like focus on these renewable energy technologies, as well as like focusing on being more sustainable in whatever work and field you're doing. Yeah, totally agree. Okay, so did you always see these two interests as separate, or have they felt connected from the beginning, or like how long have they kind of intersected with each other? Yeah, that's a good question. I think they felt connected in that the reason why I wanted to pursue them was the same. The intention was the same, right? Like for both arts and for both energy, the biggest thing is passion, right? I'd say like even like one of the I guess traits of myself is I'm a very passionate person, right? I think like I love to pursue things that I naturally am interested in, right? I think so does everyone, right? But what I've been fortunate to have, I think, is to have been able to find these passions at an early age, right? Like especially with dance, right? Like at 7 years old, I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? But my parents put me into different activities, piano, like sports, basketball, right? Nothing stuck until dance, right? It's like that time I didn't really know what I wanted to do. In college, it was more intentional, right? Like freshman year, I intentionally wanted to explore and give myself, like, open my mind up so that I could kind of expand the surface area of finding that passion, right? And so it worked out, and I was able to find that, right? And so being intentional, like, you know, especially in college, like finding that time to really expand and explore as much as possible to really find what you're actually passionate about is really important. Because once you find it, like, it just becomes a lot easier to do this stuff, right? Because you're actually interested in it. I'd say also, like, hip-hop itself, what I love about it is that it has always been for the community. So it began in like the 1970s in the Bronx of New York City as kind of a result of gang violence. So like a lot of people there, like back then, like the black and brown communities in that borough, they were impoverished, faced a lot of gang violence. And so basically in the 70s, like I think it's 1973, there was this party, and then like DJing began by DJ Kool Herc. There was dancing, breakdancing happened, graffiti, like history, rapping, like all these different like kind of art forms came together and became hip hop. But it always started from the community. Whereas maybe something like maybe ballet, right? Like which started centuries ago in like the palaces, right, of Europe, right?
Yeah.
That has always been for like a kind of like a more high-end class, right? For like the upper classes of society, right? Upper echelons, right? Whereas hip hop itself has always been for communities to express themselves, right? Like voguing and whacking too. Those are like other kind of art forms that are sometimes associated with hip hop. Like these different art forms are like they're part of like street dance or whatever you'll call it, but they have their own history, their own skills, their own techniques, right? But like voguing and whacking, these other art forms, like they started for like the LGBTQ community to like really wanted to for them to express themselves, right? Like it's always been about expression and community, right? The most fundamental part of hip hop stuff is like freestyle dancing, right? Where you just dance how you feel, how your soul wants you to move, versus like choreographing something which is like more engineered in a sense, right? And so because of that too, like I've always like love that community aspect of it. I think it shaped me a lot as a person too, to be able to like meet with, like be with people and just like vibe with them, right, through dance. And so with engineering, like even that itself might be more like the cold hard numbers, right? But it's for a greater purpose of energy and climate issues, which are a lot more warm and a lot more about community organization, right? Like if you want to solve this climate issue, you cannot be siloed, right? You need to work with people. And I found that in this climate and energy space too, like a lot of people are more welcoming, like just in general, they're welcoming, they're kind, they're open-minded, they want to collaborate, because that's how you get things done in this space, right? If you don't want to collaborate, you just can't get the stuff done in climate. Like it's just too big of a problem to do it yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's so cool that kind of, I guess, your passion for community is ultimately what bridges those two interests that you have. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so who are some of your role models, like either in the arts and or in the climate space?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me think. Oh wow, there's a lot. Oh wow. My gosh, I'd say one. Okay, I'd say like, I mean, the biggest role models I have honestly are like my peers. To be honest, like they just push you so much. So like especially places like Stanford, like or just university in general. You just like people around you that are like, so like in the climate community here as it continues to grow, just seeing what other people are doing. Just feels very, very amazing, because everyone's interested in their own stuff in climate even, right? And a lot of my friends back home in Southern California, they're going crazy in dance right now. Like they're back up dancing for like Cat's Eye, for these different like big players in this space.
Oh wow!
They've won so many competitions. They're like blowing up on social media. It's so cool to see that. And so I think my friends back in SoCal for dance are like a big role model for myself as well. I have a few like obviously like idols and people that like I really enjoy listening or looking up to in this space. But I'm trying to think. Like for climate, there's a lot of big players in the space. Oh my gosh. Especially in the Bay Area. Yeah, especially in the Bay Area. Is there anyone I want to be? Like, let me think. Well, okay, like, yeah, there's like a lot of people in the climate space are very inspiring, right? Whether it's like the policy space, like Jigar Shah, he's like a huge voice right now in the climate space. He led like the loan programs office in Washington D.C. I think it was under the DOE. There's like huge startups right now. Like a lot of them came from Stanford too. A lot of professors that are really cool, and like geothermal, like the leading startup or leading company for that space, Fervo Energy, was founded by a guy that went to Stanford. And so like energy is like huge part of the piece. There's so many crack people in climate though. I just can't even put my finger on it. I think also for me too is like in climate, I think after post college, I'm interested in development in terms of like how we can build this stuff, right? I've realized like there's so much innovation that comes out of these universities, but the big part isn't really necessarily innovation, but maybe it's actually like implementation and development, right? Because right now, like a big part of it is like community buy-in, right? NIMBYism, right? Not in my backyard, where a lot of people don't want the wind turbines built, don't want solar farms built, whatever it is. Maybe it's because of misinformation or just other reasons, other rights, right? So how can you ensure that like when you come to a community, they get the benefits that they need as well? That's very important. Equity, right? Especially with the data center build out right now. That's really interesting stuff I'm looking into. And that skill comes in like project development, project finance, making sure something's bankable, but also talking with the communities, building trust, negotiating. Like these are very important skills to think about. But yeah, I say like the biggest role models honestly are my peers. Like coming, okay, like I'd say like art school back before college was like the hub for my dancing. So those peers motivate me. Now Stanford is like the hub for climate and energy, and these peers motivate me every day. And so yeah, I'd say those like that's how I really view it.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's definitely great to be in a position where your biggest role models are like all around you, right?
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah. All right. So, you've mentioned that at institutions like Stanford and like other Ivies and such, that academics and practicality can a lot of the time be favored over the arts. So, what has that experience felt like for you on campus?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, the reason why I say also like Stanford is like the hub for climate energy. I think like this is something I've like tried to grapple with internally myself over these past year and a half coming into college. I think it's just like I was just surrounded by so much art in high school, and it's so different here in Stanford, right? And there's still a great arts department, like the TAPS Department of Theater and Performing Arts, as well as like the dance teams here. Like everyone's amazing. I love like speaking to them and like learning from them and dancing with them. But it definitely isn't the same as like art school. Art school, just like everyone did an art form, right? It's so different. And it makes sense that people would prioritize practicality here, right? Because you're now thinking about how can I get a job, all this kind of stuff, right? And so it's like, okay, practicality is very important. How can you utilize the resources you're given, especially being privileged at a space like Stanford, to like use it for good, right, in the world, or to be financially stable or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. And
so, yeah, definitely is less of a arts focus here at Stanford. I think how I view it too is that like, I see these 4 years as a time for me to explore as much as possible, right? I think the being surrounded by so many resources that are outside of the arts too here is really great for me too, because I've never been exposed to so much academic talent before, and it's such a concentrated place, and I don't think I'll experience it as much after college too. So like my strategy is like, okay, these 4 years I should focus on the academics more while still finding ways to dance. I will say there's always possible, right? Like right now, I'm the artistic director for dance and movement for the nonprofit that you mentioned. So Art is an SF. Basically, I work with some friends in the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and one of them is Ezekiel. He is also young arts. He marked from my year, and so like I mentioned, the arts network is huge, right? Like.
Yeah.
Basically, we're creating this nonprofit based in San Francisco called Art Is, and we're creating interdisciplinary shows. We have a show in May, so I'll be going there up in SF and performing, right? So finding these ways to also like get out of that bubble sometimes is really, really great and really refreshing. But I'd say like, also like, I'm sure you've heard of this, like the Bermuda Triangle of talent, right? Where people go to like consulting, finance, or like SUI, right? I'm not against that. I think like those are great paths, right? I think honestly, I feel like that's one of the, like a lot of people like that go there. Is it like it's like a good launching pad for them to go into a job later that like focuses on impact or whatever else they want to do. So you're ready to enter the industry, right? I think the problem lies though when you go in there just because everyone else is doing it and you don't know what you want to do, right? Then you become sucked in, and if you go into a job like that and you actually don't know what you want to do, you're not gonna have a lot of fun because you won't understand when you're like growing through the long hours of that job. You're making a lot of money, but you're also like, what am I doing with my life, right? You gotta understand like what you actually want to do. Exactly, the passion's out there, right? And so that's very, very important. And so seeing how like a lot of my friends, like in other colleges, right, and Stanford too, like going to these three paths, it's just like making sure that they also really want that path for them, right? And what I love about Stanford though is like the entrepreneur spirit is very, very much alive here, right? Not just even in the startup space, it's just like I think this is the one that's biggest strength of Stanford, where it's like yes, like you can go to these three career paths, but even if you don't do startups here, you're still in that influence of entrepreneurship and innovation. And it feels like anything is possible here. Like if you want to create a new community, if you want to do something, you could just do it, right? That's very important, I think. And so that's why I think it also opens a lot more pathways for people at Stanford to be like, oh, I can also pursue my own career in some other way, right? I can do a startup, I can go to VC, I can do energy stuff. And those like it just opens your mind up a lot more.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds like you do quite a few things, especially from what we had talked about at the beginning of this episode. So what is balancing all of that look to you in a day-to-day, like managing both rigorous engineering course load and then also continuing your passions for dance and the art?
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest things also like parties are so hard here in college because like you want to do everything, and you always have a problem just saying no to stuff. People always overcommit. I overcommit. It's a problem, right? I think, yeah, I think one of the biggest things though definitely is like having a passion for it, right? Like if you know what you want to do and you enjoy doing it, it's gonna be a lot easier because you're actually interested in this stuff. I think the second thing though is also understanding how GPA and like classes actually factor into your life, right? Because if you don't want to go into academia or PhD, right? Maybe getting a 4.0 or having straight A's isn't the most important in college. And I honestly feel like, especially at these types of schools where like you are surrounded by so much talent and other stuff, it may even come at an opportunity cost for you to really try and strive to get all A's and not spend as much time focusing on social aspect, focus on whatever, like quote unquote networking, focus on doing these extracurriculars, building stuff, like doing stuff in the real world, right? Because I think that is the biggest value you get out of Stanford or like these types of colleges where it's like you could always learn these academic subjects online through AI, like through other stuff, right? Like so much information is online these days in the digital kind of world that like the value of college isn't necessarily the classes, right? I think the value is like getting to know your professor, getting to like know your peers and like working some of that, right? And so like it's still very important for me to like do well in the classes, right? But I don't anymore want to try and like really aim to get the top grades 100% for everything, right? Because that always will come at an opportunity cost. So that's how I balance that, and having more fun, just like meeting people, because I feel like that's what college is about. For dance itself,
I agree.
Yeah, and I think for dance itself, it's also like finding the people that are also like vibe with me, that also like are part of the same community, or that want to go like into dance professionally as well. Like finding those people is very important for me. Finding time to dance with myself for myself, you know, is very important. And then it's also, I think, just like understanding sometimes it comes in seasons, right? Maybe a few weeks, couple of weeks, you need to focus more on academics. A couple of weeks, you can dance more, right? Just being okay with that. Having things come in seasons is also important. How else do I balance it? I think it's also like understanding that like if it's not hard, you're not learning, you're not growing, right? Like if you don't like, I think for me, it's like yes, like rest is also really important. But also like if there are times when you're like, oh, this is so difficult to balance, or this is so difficult to do, like I'm tired of this, right? I think those are just like, it's also really important to acknowledge that that's also a great way for you to grow and learn, right? It's a great way for you, like you're pushing yourself, right? To a reasonable degree, right? You don't want to burn out, right? But I think it's good. It's good to like, especially a place like college, right? Like you're never gonna be honestly this busy with activities that are like so passionate and so like impact driven, because it's just so much harder to do that after college, right? When you go into workforce or whatever it is. So yeah, I think just like understanding this is just part of the process. Everyone's going to this.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I definitely agree that one of the biggest lessons you can take away as you're starting college, especially for people that went through high school being like a straight A student, is being able to tone it down potentially from 100% effort to like maybe 90%, because how much are you sacrificing for that last 10% of it?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Definitely agree.
Okay, so do you find skills from hip hop, like improvisation or creativity, that help you in your engineering work, or vice versa? Like, is there kind of a bridge between those two passions of yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to include the arts in whatever you do. Extremely important. I like, especially in a place like Stanford, sometimes I feel like the imposter syndrome, like just naturally, right? Where it's like, oh, you know, this person's doing so much stuff, so cool, right? And you're like, oh, like I don't feel like enough or whatever it is, right? Especially like just like coming into freshman year and like trying to fit in whatever it is, right? And like I said, like so many of the students here went to high schools that are like more STEM oriented, where maybe they would like already like be like doing coding since 7 years old, or like know what VC is or investing or start whatever it is, right? Like they were immersed and used to the culture already, whereas I came from art school, so different background, right?
Yeah.
And so I was trying to figure out, you know, like how do I differ from people, right? Like what makes me unique, whatever it is, right? I think the biggest part is arts. Like arts is such a special part of the human experience. You cannot just, I don't think you can just study engineering and like really understand what the stuff means, right? Like art is like the embodiment of the human spirit, right? Of like you just can't explain something mathematically or logically that is like if it is invented and created by the human spirit, right? I think like just the art itself it's like that ethereal aspect of the creation, right? Of invention, of community, right? I think there's also a big thing, just like through arts, I've become a lot more extroverted, and like I love community. I love like bringing people together and being with people, right? And so like in climate space, that's very important. And so like that's like the other half of the battle, right? Like the hardware is one, but the second part is like building these ecosystems, being part of the greater picture, and that's really important. And so I've enjoyed doing that a lot, where maybe a few other people in the space might be more introverted, whatever it is, right? And like a lot more like they just love like working on the numbers every day, right? That's great too. But yeah, like being able to bridge that, I think, is very important, where it's like seeing how you can embody that spirit in engineering and vice versa, where you can also, I think with arts too and dance, like when I give feedback to others, or when I'm also trying to analyze how I can improve myself, it's a very logical thing too, right? Like you first start with like a foundation of like, oh, do you agree that, you know, this art form should have these moments, whatever it is, like a roller coaster? Do you agree that these moments should be like X and X or something like that? And if so, the foundation of that is that, oh, you need to punch or do this move with your shoulder instead of your wrist, right? Like these are logical things that like you just break it down, right? Like the first principles. And I think that's very important in the arts, where it's like there technically is no right answer, but being able to like come in from an evaluative point of view is very important, especially when you're working with a team, right? And you want to like manage people and get everyone to look clean on stage. So that's very important as well. I think what else? Yeah, I'd say those things. Just like everything is connected. Like really, everything is connected. You like the biggest thing that I think I find to when you bridge two things that may seem seem very different is the skill set and the traits, right? Like that's what really bridges them, right? Like I mentioned, arts is the community part of it. Engineering is like the analysis, analytical part of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely can see how, especially with your interest and your like degree for sustainability and energy, is really both are grounded in like that sense of community, and then also, I guess like arts, as you mentioned, like it kind of made you more extroverted. That only helps you even more in trying to increase your impact in like the sustainability space, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so how has the presidential scholar community and the people that you met during that Young Arts Week that you had mentioned, how has all that played a role in your transition to college and I guess your finding of yourself?
Huge role. I mean, I love it. I love the community. It's like I said, first part is like empowerment, right? I just like knowing and meeting these people across the country that are also like me is very, very important. But also, like, yeah, I still stay friends with a lot of people in pre-scholars community on campus too. Like being able to have that community coming in was great. Knowing people already, right? No. With the arts community, like I mentioned, I'm like literally partnering with, and I'm doing this nonprofit with a friend that literally I met in Young Arts 3 years ago. We're still working together because we happen to be in the same space. He invited me out to do a show in SF last year for this stuff, right? Like this entire thing literally started because we knew each other too, right? Like I was pulled in to their, like, because they understand this idea for this thing, right? And I was pulled in as a dancer, and now they're like the artistic director for dance, because we literally knew each other through Young Arts. Like if we did it, this would have never happened. And like one of the biggest things I want to do also these 4 years is just like try and bridge that space between Stanford and the rest of the Bay Area, because they're like Stanford is still very much available even in the art space, right? But like so being able to do this in SF is so amazing, and it only happened because I knew him, right? I tried also did like a few projects with a friend who's created writing in Young Arts back in San Diego. Just like recently, earlier this quarter, caught up with a friend at Harvard from Harvard. He is also a Peace Scholar previous year, like 2023, and he did piano for Young Arts. Caught up on that. Like he gave me a lot of good advice for my career and all that kind of stuff too when I came to college. Like, yeah, the network is also, it's insane. Also, it's also because like you get each other, right? You understand each other, especially within the arts, because like you like the advice you get, the vibes you get from each other. It's more similar, right? Like you understand how the arts factor into this stuff. Yeah, so that's very important. Yeah, I'd say like, I mean, honestly, the biggest thing is just like the opportunity to like the ease in which you can collaborate. Like the barrier for that entry is so low in this network, right? Especially like, so like, I mean, obviously, because like I speak from the arts community experience within Peace Scholars. Like if you want to like watch a show together, create a show together, it's so easy to do, right? So that barrier is just lowered so much, and it creates a bigger community. It makes you more like connect with each other, even if you're across the country, right? So that is the biggest value of it.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, especially, I feel like with the presidential scholars community, I'd say the vast majority, if not all of us, have like an innate drive within us, like to create or to do and like collaborate and work with other people. So I definitely agree that that's like one of the most valuable parts of community is just being able to work with other people.
Yeah.
All right, so looking ahead, How do you envision these two passions coexisting in your future life and even career?
Yeah, awesome. Something I'm always trying to think about because I'm like, man, I miss dancing the caliber I did in high school. Inevitably, but like I said, like I think it comes at an opportunity cost that I just want to learn so much in college in these 4 years, and I love it here too. Like I mentioned, like I'm also so lucky to have been able to find something like climate that like the passion itself like almost rivals my passion for hip hop dance. And for a long time, I never felt that like in these past like 20 years of my life, right? Like last October though, when I was organizing for Climate Week at Stanford, that was like the first time when I felt in my heart like the same, like almost the same passion as dance. And I was like, wow, like I like love thinking about this problem. So I'm really fortunate to be able to find that here in college and like to really immerse in that cultivate that passion right here. After college, my hope is to, because dance itself is a very time-out activity, right? Like your physique can only maintain for so long, right? So like my peak or whatever it is as a human, right? It's like my 20s or 30s for a dance, right? And so what I hope to do because of that is like, a lot of my friends in energy and climate go crazy in it. I want to still find a job that's like focused on climate energy. I want to optimize it for someplace in New York or LA where there's a huge entertainment space as well, and have a really good work-life balance where I make enough money obviously to like be financially stable in that space, but not like I don't want to try and work crazy hours so that, you know, when it hits like 5 or 6 p.m. I can log off mentally and just go dance and go crazy like that. Because like I think that's also how a lot of artists operate now, right? Except the jobs they work may not be like something they want to do, right? Like a lot of these, like, because everyone still has to work, right? It's not like you're dancing every single day, unless you're actually like you've made it that far, right? That's like the top 1%, right? And that's the goal, right? But if you're trying to get into the industry, right, you're still working odd jobs in LA or New York, right, trying to scrape by, and then at night is when all the classes happen anyway. So like I might as well spend my 9 to 5 doing something I'm actually passionate about and like I actually enjoy, right, which is climate. And then when it hits the nighttime, I can just dance as much as possible. So that's my goal for the 20s. And then just like collaborating with my friends and peers, creating shows too, just having fun. I think my goal too in college though is optimize for fun. Like I don't care right now to be the best dancer, I think, because I'm just not trained as much as I used to, like realistically, right? So like I don't want to expect that for myself and maybe like have disappointment, right? So it's like my goal for dance is just have as much fun right now in college, enjoy it. If I enjoy it, then I'm doing it successfully. Then after college, I want to like train as much as possible, go crazy, and hopefully, maybe like book tours, whatever it is, or teach internationally. I think teaching internationally would be really cool. Like choreographing, battling, whatever it is, just having as much fun as possible in that space. And in 20s and in my 30s and 40s, focusing on like back in the climate space world, I probably would want to like also maybe even move to SF. Like SF is a huge climate space right now. It's the space for climate. But New York is also huge too. There's a lot of other cool places. Work in that space in my 30s and 40s, maybe go to like a VC or startup space, or long term it could be cool to like work in policy, like the Department of Energy would be really interesting too. So that's kind of like my trajectory I hope to be in. I think in terms of like what I actually want to do in climate, like there's so much stuff I want to do. So like, again, like I mentioned, like after college, I'm optimizing to try to work at like a development area, helping to build stuff. So it could be like helping to build data centers, helping to finance and permit wind turbines, solar farms, things like that. Like there are these companies called independent power producers, and those are like companies I would love to work in after college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are kind of like those are the companies that build stuff, right? And I think it's very, very cool to be in that space because it's just like about like getting communities together and getting stuff financed and stuff like that. And yeah, I definitely want to work in an innovation space, startup in VC. Like every part of it, like policies, I feel like is one of the biggest barriers right now too. Just like you might have the best commercially feasible technology, but if the community hates it or if the policies just aren't there for this nation technology, it might not work as well. So that's a big thing. Maybe like later on in my life, but we'll see. Yeah, but I think my 20s is short term. After college, I want to optimize for dance. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, sounds like you've really thought about it a lot. And I mean, I know as you were talking about, it sounded like, you know, there's some uncertainties and such in there because it is hard to plan so far ahead because, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, you only found out your passion for climate really like a year ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting how all of it, like we can plan as much as we want, but then things just kind of happen on their own.
That too, exactly. Yes, that's a big part. I feel like especially for us, like being P scholars and just like college students, like we want so much, we like think and plan ahead and we're so ambitious, right? The way life works out is that it doesn't work that way, right? Like you're gonna be thrown so many curveballs, and so being the overachievers that we are, it's also being okay with like continue to learn too. It's just like given what you like, given the cards you're dealt with, how can you make the best deck, right? How can you make the best outcome out of that, right? Everyone is given different strengths, different weaknesses, different talents, different traits, right? Or given whatever it is. Like you can still cultivate stuff, right? You can still make a weakness stronger, whatever it is, right? But given that you're already strong in some things already, right? Whether it's because you're trained in it, you just have some natural talent in it, you're just interested in it, how can you make the best out of that, make the most out of that? Yeah, I think it's an important skill.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. For my last question for today, what advice do you have for other scholars who have strong or seemingly conflicting passions, especially between STEM and the arts?
One, it's always possible. And two, the grass is always greener on the other side. This is something my friend Lee just told me yesterday. But it's so possible to do it. I think it's just a matter of choice, and it will be difficult, but it's possible, right? But the thing with like nothing in life that you want comes easy anyway, right? Like there's so much stuff that you want to do, but you're always gonna have to make sacrifices. You're always gonna have to prioritize. Like doing the actual work of it, like the idea is always great, right? The work of it is always not as cool, right? Not as flashy, not as sexy, whatever it is, right? You have to actually get into the work and every day do it, right? And that's painful. It's hard. You're not going to see the results immediately, right? Like with something like balancing stuff like dance and the academics, right? Like being able to say no to stuff, right? Being okay with that. Being okay with the fact that you only have 24 hours in a day is important. I think also, just like physically and intentionally surround yourself with those people. Like that community is very important. Building the community is extremely, extremely important to be part of it. So it's always possible. I have a lot of friends, or like a lot of people I see too online, that are like pursuing engineering degrees or pursuing these degrees in these colleges, but also going crazy in dance, right? I think for me, like in college, like I said, like I don't want to pursue it as crazily right now because there's so much other stuff at Stanford that I want to explore. But it's possible. If you want to do that, like you can definitely do that, right? Everything just comes at an opportunity cost, right? But that's just everything in general, right? You just have to make sacrifices, right? But I think two, the grass is always greener. Basically my friend told me, like, you know, there's people that like maybe went to these like arts only schools or whatever it is, right? And these conservatories after high school, but maybe it just didn't pan out the way they wanted it, right? Like it wasn't as cool as they envisioned it was. Art school, high school was maybe better for them. Getting a job in the art space, like that's tough, right? Like the industry's tough, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you're like the 1% blow up, right? So it's like, how can you even do that, right? Maybe surprised the industry are toxic, like especially seen on social media. Like artists at the end of the day, we are meant to entertain, right? Or some parts of it, some of the art, like especially dance, right? You're like trained to entertain. So because of that, social media is the greatest way to do that. And so because of that, like you're seeing all the highlights of social media. Like we're such great entertainers. We're so good at like showing off, right? But like no one really sees like the pain, the hours you have to work towards it, the burnout, the toughness, right? So like I think for people who are maybe like people like me, you know, like you're like in the university, maybe not prioritize what you want to do, whatever it is, right? Understanding that one, you can always create it for yourself, right? You don't need a community like an art school to validate it. You can always do it yourself. You can create your own community, right? You don't need to wait for something else to happen. But also, like if you see your other peers being those art schools, right? The grass is always greener, right? Like understanding like what you have, what's strong for you in this space is very, very important. Yeah, I think that's very important. Like that's one of the biggest keys, just like understanding that like anything is possible. Like, you can create your own community. You can like do stuff, but you just have to understand that everything comes at a cost. And the biggest thing, the great thing is that sometimes you don't really care about that something costs something, right? Like sometimes you care about that sacrifice. Other times you care about that sacrifice a lot. You're like, oh wow, I have to sacrifice this thing that I actually really enjoy. And so finding that balance is very important. But the community, the mentorship is always a really good way to just like being able to cultivate that passion and continue doing it. I think like there's also a lot of people I see online that like pursue PhDs and like doing ballet, stuff like that, doing the arts with academics. You just have to be disciplined. You have to have that work ethic, but it is always possible. Like always. And like I think for the viewers too, for myself too, like I always have to remind myself, like don't let other people tell you that like it's only one way or the other. Don't let society, don't let the money-making scheme of capitalism tell you that like only one way is possible, right? It is always possible. You just have to fight for it. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And you're going to face a lot of challenges and barriers, right? But when you're able to find that balance, I think there's also never really a balance, right? Like balance is like always something to strive for, but you can't really attain forever, right?
Yeah, like perfect balance is a myth.
Exactly. Equilibrium, no, it's a myth, right? Like you can't do that, right? It's always like one or the other for season. It comes in seasons, right? But always possible. Always possible. You gotta believe. Community mentorship helps a lot with that. Yeah.
Wow, very wise words, Eddie. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Eddie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Thomas. It's a great conversation.
Yeah, I agree. It was wonderful. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Today's conversation with Eddie is exactly why we started this podcast. With a network of over 5,000 presidential scholars, there's an incredible wealth of unique perspectives, experiences, and passions to explore. And Beyond the Medallion is our space to dive deep into those stories. Make sure to stay tuned for our next episode.